All right, everybody, welcome to our Safe and Caring Schools Committee meeting. Thank you all. I know how busy you are, so I appreciate your time this afternoon. And so I shared the agenda, and then I also have it up on the screen for you. And the first thing that we'll do is, so again, we're going to go ahead and get started with our welcome. And we have our special guest, our superintendent, Dr. Aguilar Lawler, who's with us. And so she's going to begin with the welcome and setting the stage for our next steps. So Dr. Lawler.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ceci, and everyone here on Zoom. I look forward to the day that we can actually all meet in person together. However, it is nice that Brad can actually join us, even if it is in the car, because I was actually in the car on a Zoom yesterday. So I feel where you are. So I look forward to hearing from you in just a bit. So what I wanted to do today was really thank everyone for your commitment. I want to say that this Safe and Caring committee has been going pretty strong since my early days as superintendent. So I think it's a little over 2 years now, maybe more, not sure. I can't keep time up with this pandemic. You know how that goes. I'm sure you all feel the same way. But it's been a journey since the very beginning. And, we started this journey because we really wanted to have clarity in how to support our scholars, our staff, and our families. And when I first became superintendent, I did strategic planning with our amazing governing board. And one of the goals that they changed, obviously we have an academic goal and a customer service goal, but they changed the third goal to really focus on promoting social emotional learning. And hence that's how the committee began. And so I just want to say that many of you are newer to the committee as we grow and we learn and new positions come on board. You have been invited and have been active members of the committee. Some of you have been here since the beginning, and I know that our PAC president, Ms. Martinez, who's just amazing, has been here from the beginning as well. But I especially want to thank Dr. Ceci Mayas because prior to her current role as assistant superintendent of district operations, well before we had the departments that we currently have now, she was our director of special services. And so before she even became the assistant superintendent, as the director of special services, she was the go-to for our district for crisis. I don't know if you guys remember that, but whenever there was a crisis, we called Ceci. And she came to us and she helped us, and naturally, her leading the Safe and Caring Team Committee was definitely something that at the time made a lot of sense. And since then, she's, working so hard with building and operations and having, building all these incredible remodels and new things across the district. And so I just want to, give her kudos because even though her primary role isn't necessarily regarding social emotional learning per se, her role as the assistant superintendent of district operation, she does it with the safe and caring of our scholars and our staff and our families in mind all the time. And I know that inspires her. So with that, I wanted to let you know that, and we're going to talk about this later on, but I wanted to set the stage. Ceci's ready to pass the torch to our newer members of the Safe and Caring School Committee. I guess you're really not that new, but it seems like it from, the time that you've all joined. In your new roles, two of our former principals who led and ran schools to becoming district office directors. And when we talked about Safe and Caring School Committee, through the work, we've recognized that even though safe and caring is one thing that always should be going together, we recognize in our learning, me included, that there's a safe side and there's a caring side. And we have to get really good about safe and caring in order to make sure that if those of you in education see a Venn diagram where they meet, there's that meeting in the middle that they overarch, and then there's this is specifically what we do when we're caring in our school district, and this is specifically when we're being safe in our school district. So naturally, our Director of Social Emotional Learning, Rebecca Limeculer, is going to lead the caring committee for our school district. And naturally, our Director of Safe Schools, Mr. Raul Pina, is going to be the safe committee. And the two of them have been meeting with myself and Dr. Osuna and Emma, and we're going to continue to meet weekly as they create. And again, we're going to go more into this transition and talk about how this committee is going to be more of an advisory, that will be meeting a lot less, where Raul and Rebecca will sort of co-chair that overall advisory that will come together, so that when their committees have done the work, they can bring it to the overall safe and caring advisory, get input, and just continue that work to get better, to provide just an optional program for safe, for social emotional learning for our scholars, our families, and our staff members. So with that, I'm very excited. At a recent governing board meeting, Vice President Garcia shared that she had met or wanted us to meet Mr. Bradley Snyder. And so with that, I'm going to pass that over to Emma so she can provide an introduction and have a few words from our special guest. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, so we're very fortunate today to have Brad Snyder visit. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his background, and he's going to stay and kind of listen in. He is the executive director of the Dion Initiative for Child Wellbeing and Bullying Prevention, and he is working with a grant, and so he is able to provide districts a lot of training and professional development to different groups. So he's going to kind of introduce himself, and then he'll be listening in, and we'll be able to meet with him later to talk about what type of professional development he can provide for us after he kind of listens in on the work that's been happening after he introduces himself. So go ahead, Brad, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. So as mentioned, my name is Brad Snyder. I apologize again if my connection is unstable. It's a little embarrassing, but I wanted to make this meeting. I am the executive director of the Dion Initiative for Child Wellbeing and Bullying Prevention, which was the Anti-Bullying Center and School Climate Center at Arizona State University. That it's now independent and in the community. I'm also a member of the Governor's Commission on Child Safety and Family Empowerment, and I'm the immediate past chair of the Arizona Adverse Childhood Experiences Consortium, which is where I first encountered the great work of the Cartwright School District because it introduced me to Rebecca. So when I had a conversation with Vice President Garcia, I was excited to work with the Cartwright District because of your history and how important you are to the state. Are you able to hear me? You can still hear me? Good. So I have a grant for the last several years. I've been working closely with the Arizona Department of Health Services on their bullying campaign and their school climate work. This year, they asked what I thought school districts would need, since we've been doing trainings in the community for the last several years. And one of the things that I know, and I'm preaching to the choir here, I realize, is that schools face increasing pressures, and they're being asked to do more and more and to integrate more and more. And too often, to teachers, to parents, even to administrators, it looks like you're being asked to decide, are we going to pursue PBIS, or are we going to pursue SEL? Are we going to pursue trauma-informed practices, or are we going to be looking at the whole school, whole child, whole community initiative? And what I wanted to do with these trainings is to help parents, to help teachers, to help administrators understand how these things integrate. What I hope that I have done in the trainings that I've done so far and the training that I've developed is come up with a way that unpacks these things and helps all people see how they really are integrated, how maybe they're already doing the whole school, whole community, whole child initiative. Maybe they already are on a path to SEL, don't even realize it. So I wanted to demystify some of these things, really almost present a Rosetta Stone that translates them. But the exciting thing about my engagement with Arizona Department of Health Services is that I get to tailor the training to your needs. So I'm excited to be here to listen to what you're already doing. I'm so grateful again to be working with Cartwright because of your great history in doing SEL, in doing trauma-informed practices at some of your schools. So I'm going to listen. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have now or later, but I only want any training that I provide to any community partner, any school district to be useful, to further your mission, to not be a burden, not distract from things that you're already doing. So that's what I'll be looking for, are opportunities where hopefully I can make what you're doing easier to accomplish by being a piece of or part of a team, part of your strategy. So again, happy to answer any questions you have now or later or in follow-up, but very excited to be listening to what you're doing right now.
Thank you so much. We're very honored that you are taking time out of your vacation to be with us today, Mr. Snyder. All right, so any questions for Bradley Snyder at this time?
No, but this is Leanne, and I'm just I loved hearing your background, and I just loved hearing that you want to partner with us, and I would agree. I think Cartwright is an amazing district, and we just so thank you so much. And again, thank your family for allowing you to take this time with us today. So thank you.
Dr. Mize, can I just take a second? Brad, I just wanted to say hello to you. I haven't seen you in ages. And I also wanted to thank you for thinking of Cartwright when you got this grant. We appreciate that very much. So thank you for thinking of us.
You're very welcome. I'm not going to repeat your thanks to my family because I'm sure they're already going to require me to do something to make up for it. So I don't want them to know that you also support me having to make it up to them. I'll keep that on the down low. But anyway, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to listening.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Snyder, for joining us, and we look forward to getting to know you more and just learning with you as to how we can continue this great work that we're talking about. So thank you. All right, so next on the agenda, I know that we are very grateful for Principal Christine Ramirez and her school counselor, Elizabeth Solano, who are joining us today. Mrs. Ramirez is going to be sharing a presentation with us so that we can learn about some of the great things that are going on at Peralta. We know this school year, we're very excited to finally have more counselors in our district. And they're doing some really wonderful things at Peralta. And so Christine is going to share with us what she's doing. And then at the end, if we have any questions for either her or her counselor, they're both available. I know many of you are excited as I am to hear this presentation. So Christine, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then did you want to go ahead and share your presentation? Or would you like me to? Okay.
I shared it with you, but I think we'll have, so Elizabeth and I are going to co-present. So she's going to go ahead and share. She's going to move along the slides, if that's okay. And then we'll get through it that way. So thank you, everybody. So glad to be here. Okay, so again, thank you all for the introduction for today's time. We have about 20 minutes to go through really just the social emotional learning that we have been incorporating amidst our pandemic this year. And I'm very excited that Elizabeth Solano is here with me. so that you all can have a picture that goes with the wonderful things that we are doing. Next slide. So really what we are going to look at today for our learning target is we are going to just really see some examples of social emotional learning with our distance learning while we've been using our GoZen and our morning meetings. And really at the end of our time, we would want our participants to be able to reflect and explore social emotional learning opportunities for all students using a GoZen platform, some type of curriculum, or morning meetings. And so we're going to go through quickly social emotional learning for our students and how Ms. Solano has supported them. We're going to talk briefly about our SEL daily in our morning meetings. We're going to talk briefly about the social media with our parents and how we're pushing out that message. And briefly, we will talk at the end about the SEL professional development that we have implemented this year. So we have taken every opportunity to really embrace GoZen. And through GoZen implementation, we are currently implementing the GoZen online program, which is Go Strengths. And really, this is just a social emotional learning program with really engaging animation. And our students are really loving it this year. And it's based on a positive psychology. And again, it's online, so it's been very helpful for us to implement that. And all of the lessons are taught by Elizabeth Solano, our school counselor. So this year, we started at the beginning of the year, and all of our grades so far, except 2, have completed all of the online lessons that teach 8 vital life skills to our scholars. Currently, kindergarten and 3rd grade just started this week, and they will finish the year. They will go up until the end of the year with the same program that our other grades have had. Typically, the lessons have been about 40 minutes a week. And so we usually incorporate that with, we take the place with like a virtual field trip that's already scheduled. We insert those opportunities for Go Strengths in that time. So it's been a really consistent message for all of the grade levels. Kindergarten lessons have already begun this week, and we do have an example to show you today. And those have definitely needed to be modified just due to our scholars' attention span. And here's an example of the 8 skills that Go Strengths incorporates. I'll give you a second to read all of them. And it's really cool because this is reinforced in our morning meeting time. So yes, our students are getting the Go Strengths as a separate course, but then we are incorporating the common language for our students during morning meeting. And we are planning to have morning meeting next year on our master schedule for all grade levels. Okay, so next slide. Elizabeth now is going to take us through the evolution of GoZen because we had a starting point at the beginning of the year, and we are at a place now that it is really, I would say, a very ideal, a very, it's just a model of really what our social emotional learning can look like. But it didn't happen on day 1. So we kind of wanted to show you all how this has evolved from Q1 to Q4. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you all of those that are present here today for allowing us to share a little bit about what has been working for us here at Peralta. So just thank you for this space. So yeah, like Christine mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of GoZen. Of course, being a first-year school counselor, on top of doing it virtually, Definitely has been a challenge. Well, is a challenge, right? We're still living it, but it is doable, and it has been really rewarding to just see how students have really been engaging and understanding the curriculum from GoZen. They really enjoy it. And even we have got some parent feedback saying that they really enjoy it, and they even use it for themselves, because sometimes parents will be in the background sort of listening in, and they're like, oh my gosh, like some of that I used it today. So it's been really nice. So that being said, let's get started a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about how we decided to structure GoZen. What I did first was initially just look over the entire modules, and I started to notice that some of the language was just a little bit more advanced and just had tons of information. I mean, it was great information, but it was just a lot. So we decided that it would be best to split the grade levels on who would receive that direct instruction from Go Strengths and who would receive the more modified version. So we decided that the lower grade levels would receive it, which would include kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. And then the upper grade levels, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, would receive that direct instruction from Grow Strengths from the website. So everyone still received the same 8 life skills that Christine had just showed right here on the PowerPoint. It was just that kindergarten through second grade was more of a modified version. It still had the same objectives, just different examples. And those different examples were YouTube videos that were more age appropriate for that age group. Next slide. So starting with our learning targets and success criteria. So all of my presentations initially had learning targets, but as you can see, they have really transformed from day one. At the beginning, I really wasn't focusing on success criteria. I was just saying like, okay, today we're going to learn about thoughts and self-talk and thought model, right? Which was the objective from Go Strengths, but I didn't really have anything to guide me at first. And now it has evolved to having learning targets and success criteria, which is also what I believe teachers do. So I really wanted to mimic that as well. This allowed me to stay accountable, and as well students, to ensure that learning is actually happening. So instead of just saying, okay, we're learning about thoughts, okay, well, what specifically? Well, we're learning about the ETR model. We're learning about self-talk. We're learning about how our actions can be influenced by our thoughts and our feelings. And then we will be successful when we can define the ETR model and when we can define what self-talk is, both negative and positive. So this really allowed me to ensure that students are learning. So that is a very big difference. So like Christine had mentioned, this definitely didn't happen overnight. Day one was a little bit of a struggle. I would say this is probably one of my first presentations because yeah, it's module 2. So it's definitely not my best take. Now I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's still a great starting point because I'm still talking about different scenarios and the students are still receiving that content. So this is an example where we just finished watching one of those animated videos from Go Strengths about the events, thoughts, and reaction model. And I'm trying to get our sixth grade scholars to present, but I'm just gonna go ahead and play it so you guys can see that example.
So just like Neutrino said, it's not about the event that happened. So if someone were to bump into you, or you were to get a bad grade, or something didn't go your way, it's not about what happened. It's more about how you handle it and your thoughts on that situation. So can you think of maybe a time when you or someone else experienced the same thing, but had totally different reactions? What were the difference in your thoughts? So think about school, right? We all have been in school where we have to take a test, and we all kind of get that anxious or jittery feeling. Or do you not get those anxious and jittery feelings? Is that a time that you can relate to, where you guys had different thoughts or different reactions? So think about a time that you and a friend, you and a classmate, you and another student maybe experienced the exact same problem but had different reactions. And who would like to share? Go ahead and raise your hand when you're ready, or you can also type ready in the chat and I will call on you. I'm looking for hands. Come on, everybody. We'll have a couple more minutes left and then we're going to be done. Or maybe a situation amongst your friends that you guys can think of. Can anyone think of anything? I know, it's the first day back from a holiday. It's always tough. So maybe I can give you guys an example. So what if like a friend invited you to a party, but you were late and then another person was also late? Maybe so the event is that you guys are both late, right? The thought, if you have a positive thought, is that, oh, I'm late, but my friend is going to understand. I had to do something, right? A negative thought might be, oh no, she's going to get mad. They're going to hate me. Oh no. And then you're going to feel upset, right? If you have that negative thought, as opposed to having the positive thought and understanding that it's okay to be late. You're going to feel more happy and understanding. Melanie shared with us, when I had a test, I thought, oh no, what if I had them all wrong? When someone thinks I'm going to have all these questions correct. So yeah, exactly. So you can, when a test is coming, so the test is the event. The thought is that, oh no, what if I get them all wrong? What if I fail? I'm dumb, right? Those negative thoughts, as opposed to having those positive thoughts. I'm going to just try.
So as you can see, really only one person engages with me in that moment, and it was through the chat. It is sixth grade, so it is a lot more common that they don't want to turn on their cameras or they don't really want to participate. So that was sort of like the best that I got out of the conversation. But as I began to reflect on my work, I also noticed that my lessons were not very engaged. And I was really just teaching, but not really checking to see if students were understanding. So that was at the beginning of when we first started Go Strength. And this is an example. This is an example from recently. It is still module 2. We're still talking about the same content, which is self-talk and the event thoughts reaction model. And it is with 3rd grade. So although it is different grade levels, it is still the exact same content, but it has been improved a lot more. So this one is a little bit more fun to watch. So let's talk about the second portion here, which is self-talk. So maybe you have had these thoughts before, and if you had, maybe in the chat just say, that's me, or you can just raise your hand. But maybe you have had a thought that's like, I'm so dumb, no one likes me, I'm a bad person, I give up, I'll never be able to do this, I never get it right, I'm not good enough. If you have had a thought like that, go ahead and just raise your hand and say, or you can, if you're, you can also just type in the chat. Thank you, Marbella and Callan, for being honest. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, we've all had some of these negative thoughts. And remember, 80% of people have those negative thoughts. So it's pretty common, right? It's not like it's something out of this world. So let's learn more about self-talk. Pretty awesome. So we just learned a little bit about what self-talk is. And it's really like that tiny voice that we have in our mind, right? That is just kind of always talking to us. And remember what we said earlier about how our thoughts are so powerful. They really shape how we think and how we act. So what you say to yourself, it really does matter. So who can tell me what is the Go Pause It tool and what is the Go Catch It tool? Real quickly, you are going to notice as we go through the Go Zen presentations that they have a lot of tools that they're going to introduce to us, and they're going to be very purposeful. We're going to begin to notice that. Go ahead, Gia. What does the Go Pause It and the Go Catch It tool do?
The Go Pause It tool pauses the person and their thought, and the Go Catch It tool catches the thought so so you won't think it. So you won't think negative thoughts.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Gia. That's exactly what it is. Like I said, they're very purposeful with the tools that they choose. So the Go Pause It is simply just pause, take a moment to pause and think about your thoughts. The Go Catch It, you want to figuratively catch your thought and look at it closer to see, is this a negative thought or not? So we want to be seeing more of these kind of thoughts. Like instead of saying, I'm so dumb, we want to say things like, I made a mistake and hey, it's okay. Instead of saying like, no one likes me, we want to say things like, I like me, right? So we want to change that to a more positive thought. Next slide. So let's do a quick check. Just for time purposes, I'm not going to finish the video, but as you can see, there was a lot more engaging questions right after the video. I asked them, what does the tool do? And I also included a check for understanding, although I won't play it, but I would ask the class, okay, so we just learned about self-talk. Now tell me, what is self-talk? We just learned about the ETR model. Now tell me, what does ETR stand for? So that's sort of what the difference is from the beginning of the year versus to what it looks like now. Understanding, what does ETR stand for and what is self-talk? Go ahead and raise your hand. My computer's just went on its own. See if I can, it just froze for a second. I can't see. Sorry everyone, quick technical difficulty.
Do you want me to share?
Do you mind sharing, Christine? I'm not exactly sure what happened. Let me stop sharing. There we go. Okay, thank you so much. And the other thing that we began including also in our presentation is, oh, see, there's an error. Do you see that error?
Only when I present.
Okay. So maybe just keep it in not present mode. So the other thing that we also included was exit tickets. At first, I didn't have any sort of exit ticket, and I started to notice that this is what teachers also had in their lesson plans. So I thought, why not also include this in Go Strengths to ensure that students are learning the curriculum. And for the lower grades, it is a lot more visuals. As you can see, I had like a true or false, and I would ask them to signal like, okay, do you think that statement is true or do you think it's false? And I would sort of gauge and assess the class to see, do we need to work on this a little bit more, or is it something that we can continue to move on? And then here is our kindergarten example.
So we have Tom. Let me get my little pointer. We have Tom and we have Jane. Both of them are riding their bike. As you can see, they are riding on their bike. But guess what? Both of them fall. They fall off their bike, just like you see here in the little video clip. They are falling. So baby. One of them is still happy, as you can see here. Let's look at Tom's face. He's still happy, but Jane doesn't look very happy. She doesn't look too happy. So out of Tom and Jane, who do you think is resilient? Do you think Tom is resilient or do you think Jane is resilient? Let's hear a couple people. Go ahead, Christian, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, I think it's Tom because he's still happy. That one time happened to me, I was still coming up. So that think that Tom is the one that is resilient.
Brilliant. Okay, good. Let's see what other people have to say. Go ahead, Samuel.
Tom is resilient because he crashed in the fence and he's still on his bike.
He got back up, right? He bounced back. All right.
Because he didn't look where he's going. That's why he crashed.
I know. Oh my goodness. Who else has anything to say about who is resilient? Go ahead, Jacob. Thank you for raising your hand and unmute yourself.
Sure.
Yes.
And you're riding the bike, you're going to crash in the sand. And you go so fast, you're going to fall.
Yeah. But are you going to cry or are you going to get back up and try again?
Because in the other day, I do like this to my bike. Like this. And I ride like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're so funny. So, and then the exit ticket for the upper grade levels.
It is a T-Mobile.
So then the exit ticket for the upper grade levels,
It's square.
he just has at the end of their modules has
It
examples.
just says T-Mobile.
Joy, you want to mute?
Everything is like come off.
Dr. Weiss?
Yes.
Dr.
Okay.
You're not on mute?
Thanks. Bye.
Dr. Weiss, you're not on mute.
I apologize. I thought I was. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So yeah, so at the end of every module for Go Strings, for the upper grade levels, there's a quiz. So we would just use that for the exit ticket. And then I just asked the scholars to type their answer in the chat. That way I can review and see, okay, who is getting, how are all the scholars performing? So as you can see here, the correct answer was D. And I would say about half of them got it right. So I would, for the next module, then I would probably include a little bit of what we learned that module so we can review it and make sure that all scholars are understanding it. You can go to the next slide, Christine. And then we won't play this video, but this is an asynchronous example. And of course, you know, being a school counselor, sometimes we have emergencies or we have to support other students that come up. But in that case, what I do is I do a pre-recorded video of myself and I just push that out to the teachers. And this is where the teachers support and facilitate this conversation. And they have been really great about that. So thank you to them for supporting with those asynchronous examples then.
I'm sorry.
And I think Christine is going to talk a little bit about our morning meetings.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So yeah, we definitely have been incorporating morning meetings. They are about 25 to 30 minutes. It just depends. And typically we have about 15 slides, but today I was just going to show you a few on how we are incorporating our PBIS expectations, especially with coming back to school. We are using the morning meetings to do our education and reinforce what we expect of our scholars. And this is PBIS expectation. We're going to be safe scholars. We also incorporate our Boys Town skill of the week every day. And this is where the teachers take a couple extra minutes to do the teaching piece and practice and give students different scenarios so that they can really internalize and understand really what our skill is for the week. And we also have an SEL message of the day. And this is just 2 videos that the teachers would choose from after they go through the morning message. And they would watch the video with the students. And really, this has been very, very popular. We get a lot of emails from teachers and students about this. And I think the parents like the videos too, because they are like, wow, we really got, the teachers will email us and say, we got really good conversation with our students today for this video. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for really researching this. And it's just really working very, very well with, again, that common language in the morning. We have this year also decided to have the common language with our parents. And basically, this is just an example of what we push out. I think typically these go out on Wednesdays through our social media platform and through Seesaw and Class Dojo. So we are getting feedback that the parents are appreciating this, and they are using these wonderful skills. And now we're going to go ahead and close up with the staff, what we're doing with staff.
Thank you, Christine. So just real quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the PD that we are offering to our staff. As you all know, everyone was affected by COVID somehow this year. So it was really important for me to ensure that our staff still was supported somehow, and I really wanted to push for that staff resiliency. So one of our PDs this year was on self-care and also mindfulness meditation. So we did a mindfulness meditation together, even though it was virtually, right? It's not like being in person, but the teachers really appreciated that and really like taking a moment for themselves. You can go to the next slide. And this is just the mindfulness meditation that we did. It was really nice because it was tailored to educators, and it was specifically about the COVID-19 period. So the teachers really, really appreciated it. But you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Christine. Are you gonna try to play?
Yep. It's kind of.
And then the other presentation that we began introducing this year is we want to start talking more about a trauma-informed approach. So we didn't dive really too deep into this. We really just talked about a basic understanding on childhood trauma. And then we really wanted to understand and visualize some of Dr. Bruce Perry's work, which are the 3 R's: regulate, reason, and relate. And we read an article, if you can go to the next slide, Christine, called Strategies for Trauma-Informed Distance Learning. So at that time, we were thinking we're going to continue to stay virtual. So how can we include those trauma-informed practices even if we're virtual? But these are great practices for in-person and distance learning. And then the last thing that I just wanted to briefly talk about is I also send out a monthly staff newsletter, and those have been really fun. I tailor them to awareness days or months. For example, this one was about like Read Across America. So I encourage teachers to read about like different cultures and different diversities, information about testing, because we know testing is coming up. And then I always like to include just a quick like self-care tip for teachers to just remember to take care of themselves, right? Because we know that we cannot pour from an empty glass of water. And this is just an example of what it looks like. It would be the school counselor connection and then just like a flyer attached. And that is it, I think. Thank you all so much for allowing us this space. I know it's a lot of information, but yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Christine and Elizabeth, and amazing work. So, and it gives everybody, hopefully it gives everybody ideas too, as you guys are all building your programs at your schools. So are there any particular questions while we have Elizabeth and Christine available to us?
Just a comment, I've seen this presentation through Christine and now Elizabeth's eyes, and it's just, the content, I just can't I'm just not tired of hearing it. It's so inspirational, and you're making a name for yourself over at Peralta, because our families from across the district, they really want to see this in their schools. And so I can't thank you enough. This is incredible, just incredible. You think you know what you want to happen, and then you see what can actually be, and it just expands what you're wanting. So I just thank you for being such a great model, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawler.
Thank you, Dr. Lawler, as well, for that wonderful comment. And thank you all. Thank you.
I do have a quick question, not as much for Elizabeth and Christine, perhaps for Rebecca even more, potentially, just being super systems level in terms of anything that I'm typically thinking with. I'm curious, Rebecca, in regards to if we have this model of high implementation, and it's great to get to see, because I haven't got the chance to see these lessons in a large degree, so cool to get to see Elizabeth, not shocking that you're doing so well with it. But Rebecca, if we know what high implementation looks like, are we like trying to ensure that this is happening at other campuses on a more systemic level? I know that there was a push for making sure that we have Go-Zen lessons and morning meetings. Are we seeing that? Is that what the other counselors are saying is happening on their campuses as well?
So thanks, Kyle. So I think this is the purpose of being in this space, right? Is that we want to make sure that the same opportunities are happening for our students across our district. And Elizabeth is a great example of all of the great work that can come out of this. And we have others, and Elizabeth knows they do great work at the open office hours together. There's so much sharing, but I think you did hit something on the head, Carl, that we're looking at practices that we want to make sure are embedded everywhere. And I think that's the purpose of some of what we'll do as our committee. How do we ensure that we get this in front of every principal, in front of every counselor, and that we have fidelity in our schools, that all of our students have access to a morning meeting, right? That all of our parents have access to an SEL newsletter, that all of our students have access to these wonderful lessons. So yes, Kyle, the idea is that we have a clear vision that's articulated, and that we help to make that happen and fill in the gaps of the learning, so that every child in Cartwright has equal opportunity to all of this great, and staff members too, right? Like Elizabeth said, everything she's doing for her staff, that's what all of our schools need. So yes, Kyle, that's the intention, is that we move forward, ensuring that everybody has the same vision for best practice as we deliver social emotional learning to our students. And Elizabeth, I am so proud of you. I missed you terribly, but it's an incredible job that you're doing over there. And I don't want to embarrass you in front of this team, but I'm going to say this. Elizabeth spent her entire life dreaming of being a school counselor, and she's known exactly what she's wanted for so long. And Elizabeth, you are doing such great work. I'm just so proud of you and thankful that we have you here to help show us how things can be. And I'm forever grateful. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Rebecca. You're the best.
All right, so we established, so thank you for sharing that, Rebecca, and we established that that's exactly one of the next steps. And so we're thankful that the work you do with the caring committee will continue to or to ensure that. And so any other questions? Because I know Christine and Elizabeth won't be staying with us the entire meeting. So after this, they are gonna leave.
Can I just say one more thing? I want everybody on this committee too to know that Elizabeth has, not only on top of everything she's done, she's donated her time and she's worked on a committee with me for our calm down spaces. So Elizabeth, just know that we'll probably be calling on you more for our committee work, but thank you for the time you spent to help us really ensure that our sensory rooms have what they need. So I just wanted to take this space to thank you for that as well.
All right, Christine and Elizabeth, it looks like there aren't any additional questions. So we thank you so much for sharing that presentation and for being a resource to all of us. And we look forward to seeing, to using yours as an example, Elizabeth, so, and the work you're doing there. So thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so moving along on our agenda, the next item that we wanted to share was, like Dr. Lawler had communicated from the start, was that our committee, we know that we're thankful now that there has been such an emphasis with the social emotional learning, and we're grateful that our governing board understands the importance of supporting students in this area. And so with that commitment, we've been able to add additional positions. And I know that even this committee has been a part of that work even before Rebecca was in her current role. And so as Dr. Lawler shared, Safe Schools Committee, Raul is going to continue to ensure that the work with PBIS, Boys Town, things like that are followed through with, and that we're continuing to grow and do better and ensuring that all students have access to the same support needed to ensure our schools are safe. If you are interested in being a part of that work and the committee work that Raul and his committee, so they're going to branch off And again, you'll still come together and be able to hear the things that the Safe Schools Committee is doing as an advisory, and just being able to give that input like Dr. Lawler shared. And then, but if you want to be a part of that specific work, feel free to add your name, whether now or even just, within the next week, if you want to think about it. You all have access to this document. And so you can think about if you want to be a part of that work, so that at least Raul and Rebecca will know for the caring schools that if you want to be a part of the work that she's doing to continue to actually create some of these systems and procedures and things like that. Some of the things that we discussed when Raul and Rebecca and I were meeting was that that just, again, like I said, clarity and procedures. What is the expectation from wording meetings? What is the expectation for newsletters, for supporting just some of the things that we've seen? And so we were talking about making sure that clear expectations are captured, so that in writing, so that everyone knows what is offered throughout the district in regards to what we do to keep our schools safe and caring. Rebecca and Raul will be looking to add additional members on their committees, representatives from counselors, from the safe and caring team members, SELs, RTIBs, psychologists, for example. So that's why I noted that there. And so again, there's an invitation to all of you to be a part of either of those. But at the same time, this committee will continue to meet quarterly, just to see and advise, be that advisory on the work that's being done. Any questions as again, we understand the shift to an advisory for this particular committee, and the work Raul and Rebecca both will be doing on separate committees. Krista?
Can you kind of clarify the delineation between the safe and the caring?
I sure can. Let me stop sharing. And then I'm going to pull up a different document that I can share with you. And while I'm doing that, Rebecca, do you want to share at all some of the things? I'm going to pull up the document, but if you want to share what you have noted as caring and some of the things that you're going to be working on, so that we have clarity on consistency.
I can, Ceci, because I worked on this and trying to fit it in a Venn diagram. So for instance, Krista, like on the caring side, I had listed things like trauma sensitive practices, ACE-PD, SEL work, all of the work, the beautiful work with that we just were shared with Elizabeth. On the safe side, specific to maybe more the PBIS, Boys Town, and also procedures, protocols, the discipline matrix, that's kind of embedded over on the safe side. But you're right. So there's things that we both cover. Kind of there's we kind of started to highlight things that we knew would really take both of these groups of people and all of us working together to really impact. So for instance, we know that restorative practices are really important for both sides. We know that we're going to have to come together for a lot of our PD for people. We wanted to create a video library with a different focus on a variety of SEL topics. So that would be where they were together. But some of the people maybe on Raul's committee would be focusing more on how are we getting this Boys Town training done. Let's take another look at this discipline matrix and see how we're doing with this. Where on my side, we might be specifically focusing on what are the best practices in this counseling program that we want to ensure is happening in every school? How do we get that articulated and where do we house that? Does that help a little bit?
It does. I had a kind of a specific, I was wondering, for instance, say the role of SROs in home visits with refugee families, or when it goes off campus. So that's kind of a disciplinary, but it's safe and caring and trauma informed, culturally responsive practices, how we're interacting with our families off campus. But I don't know, I'd be interested in helping with that, but I'm not sure what.
So I think, I won't speak for Oral, but I think the SROs would fall under safe to start with. But you're right, Krista, there's many things here that we will blend together, right? Because safety and caring go together primarily most of the time, but we can focus on them separately, come up with our procedures and our protocols, and then for an instance like that, we do want our SROs available to us when we want to do home visits to check for safety. But we also want to make sure that we're not possibly triggering or traumatizing a family that might be very fearful of a police officer. So I think that's where you're going, is that sometimes there's both, and we'll just have to come back together. But primarily, I think the SROs would fall under safety.
Okay, thank you.
And now that you all see the list here, if there's anything that you feel that we've missed, I know we had conversations about the SRO, so I'm glad you mentioned that, Krista, because it wasn't on, unless I'm not seeing it, but I didn't see it on any of the lists. And I went ahead and left it highlighted. So what's highlighted are things that, while one particular director might be leading that work through their committee, the highlighted topics are ones that they know blend, and so they'll be checking together as they develop different procedures, practices, and so forth for those particular areas. So Raul and Rebecca will come together. But the others, they'll be able to, just speed up. We know that there's an immediate need to ensure that we're moving quickly, not carefully and correctly, accurately, but still moving quickly, because these are just great needs in our district, and our governing board really wants to ensure that we're seeing progress, very clear progress in all these areas. So that way, at least it's split, so the two directors are really able to focus on that with, again, input from all of our stakeholders. So I'll give you a little bit of time if everyone, does anyone see anything else that we want to make sure that gets on this list?
And I also just want to clarify that Raul and Rebecca are going to be providing us further within the committee work, kind of what kind of professional development do administrators need? What kind of professional development do our teachers need? What kind of professional development do our ESPs need? And really ensuring, thinking about what Kyle was saying, having something very clear and systemic, and how's that going to look, so that when we finally get the training, when we have new staff members come in, that we make sure that new staff members have those same kinds of trainings and opportunities to learn, and all under the guise of multi-tier system of support for SEL. And so, like Krista, your position being so new, I see, like what you say, there is kind of that, you see the Venn diagram, you're in the middle in many of those areas. So I see a lot of that. And that's why I'm meeting with, and Dr. Suna and Emma, how we're meeting together weekly to talk about these things, so that we're clear and that we can go forward and ensure that we are meeting the needs of who we're here for, which is our scholars and our families.
Thank you, Dr. Lawler.
Can I just address, thank you, Kyle, for putting in the chat about threat and assessments. So just so you know, we are working, thank you, Dr. Lawler, because we're working on some other documents for you. We have a Venn diagram, and we have the PD that we're working on, and we've certainly included our suicide and our threat assessment in that work. So just because you didn't see it on that list that Ceci showed you, we're absolutely understand the importance, Kyle, of the threat and the suicide assessment. So and Dr. Medrano's in the space with us, and he knows that that's absolutely will be part of our work moving forward.
All right, and I did add that to the list as well. I kept it highlighted for both, but then also added it under safe. All right, and feel free, everyone has access to the agenda. If there are other things you want to make sure that are captured and considered for both Rebecca and Raul as they continue leading the great work, you can note it there. And then, like I said, right here on this document, at any point, if you want to be considered for either of these committees, be sure to note your name, as Rebecca and Raul both work to build committees that support this work. All right, and so the next thing I wanted to talk about was just, again, we want to see results. We know our board wants to see very clear results, and we want to know where we're at now, so that as we continue this work, we have clear evidence that that we're making a difference, that we're doing the right work in the district, and we can see the impact. And so I sent out a survey And the survey was sent to counselors, RTIBs, Safe and Caring team members, every one of you received the survey as well. And we were able to take so Raul and Rebecca have access. So that way, this is kind of like a baseline. So we know where we're at this time as a district when it comes to just ensuring our schools are safe and caring environments. I wanted to share just a couple of highlights with you all and just some areas that'll definitely be focused on, and I capture them in the notes as well. But so it was nice to have feedback. There were counselors, there were various people from all the different stakeholders that responded to the survey. And so it was nice to be able to see the different responses from multiple areas. And what we found, so one of the questions was, I feel clear. Well, first I want to say it was great to see that everyone feels like they're having an impact. And so people were very confident about that. And so, but when it came, some of the areas that Raul and Rebecca will both continue to focus on is ensuring, so I highlighted them here for you to see, when it comes to feeling clear about how other stakeholders, how their roles and responsibilities coordinate together to ensure our schools are safe and caring environments. You could see that it was all over the place. Some people felt like, yeah, I know what the counselor's role is, the psychologist's role is, the cells, but then you can see how a lot of people had no idea. Because so 5 is strongly agree, 1 is strongly disagree, and you can just see we're all over the place. And so, so this is a nice baseline. And then so one of the goals will be to clearly establish, what do counselors do in our schools? What do cells do in our schools? What's the role of the psychologist when it comes to ensuring that our students' needs are being met, SEL and behavioral or safe. And so just again, ensuring that everyone's very confident, not only these stakeholders, but even our teachers, everybody in our schools knows exactly what everybody does and how they're contributing to these efforts to achieving our goal. And then people were pretty confident that students are getting tier 1 behavior supports. So I think that speaks to the work with the Boys Town skills and things like that. But when it comes to tier 3, you can see that there's not as much confidence. And so students in need of because again, we want to know all students. If a student is in need of tier 3 interventions, are they getting them? Is everyone confident all of them are getting the interventions they need? And you can see here as well, some campuses are confident that they are, other campuses are not. And so we want to really focus on this too and ensure with consistency. It doesn't matter which campus you're on, if everyone's getting tier 1, everyone's getting tier 2, tier 3, not just in behavior, but also SEL support. And so so here is another one where there's inconsistency. Supports for behavior and SEL are provided with consistency and predictability on my campus. And you can see how, again, there's some people that are confident, but not everybody is. We want to see everyone confident that it's consistent, it's predictable. We know exactly what our scholars are receiving. SEL support, here was another one. Again, tier 3, we want to see consistency, that we know if a student is in need of tier 3 interventions and support when it comes to SEL, that we're confident they are getting it. And so again, these were some of the areas where there was inconsistency. And so I just wanted to share them with you. But when it came to the actual next steps, I wanted to share with you, we had some really good feedback. And I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to share with you real quick that I do think our district has a lot that we can be proud of. And so when it comes to feedback, and I'm sorry, let me share now again. So you can see just some of the comments that were made. Can you see my screen? So people, what are we doing well? People had a lot of great things to say, as far as PBIS, Boys Town skills. Again, it's different schools. And so Raul and Rebecca will each want to figure out a way to monitor so we know that everybody is confident with this. But schools are looking more holistically at scholars, actively seeking ways to support the whole child. So I thought it was great to hear, some of our schools have Kids at Hope and personal experiences. There was a lot of positive feedback about what we're doing well, PBIS work and things like that. So really pushing for positivity. And like I said, great feedback there. Next steps. So then one of the last questions was next steps or room for growth. And it's just making sure there's funding to support the PBIS and the different initiatives, more training, like Dr. Lawler said, continued training for on both sides, the SAFE and the SEL. So people want more PD. And then more communication. And then again, just understanding the roles of each of everybody. So like I said, we've got some great feedback, and we know we're a great focus for more communication and consistency. And so that's what we'll be doing. And like I said, so Raul and Rebecca will have this information to really be a baseline of where we're at and be able to monitor our progress. So any thoughts on that, and did I miss any comments? No? Okay, in the chat. All right, so then the next item on the agenda. Oh, sorry, let me get to the safe and caring. So, so we know that our committee, we had broken into subcommittees, and there was a lot of work that was done. And I included one example on the agenda of some of the work that was done, even just professional development. And so Raul and Rebecca will continue that work as well, as far as looking at each of the subcommittees. And if falls, well, like Dr. Lawler said, professional development, we had that subcommittee. And so they'll each take and further the work there for the professional development. And then the different committees, they'll each take on and make sure that work is continued so that we can continue to see great work there. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you, and sorry, I don't know why the agenda is not offering an option of. And then the last thing I wanted to share was about, well, I have other on there as and what I wanted to share was, we know that our scholars right now are having, there's just a lot of needs. We know with the closure and the pandemic that it created a lot of it was hard for students. I know even just how important social interactions are, and for people, I know I was even talking to people who was really hard being by yourself, not getting to interact with friends and so forth. And so just the mental health needs have grown, and we know that that's an area of great concern for our district. And there's we heard about this Care Solace, which offers supports to schools. So we know we're thankful for counselors in our district, for the various professionals that we have supporting, but then we also know our kids still need to get connected, and some of them need services at home. And you might make a referral to a family, or not make a referral, but families might say, hey, I'm trying to get my child counseling, but I don't know where to begin. And so this particular program, they really step in and support schools and work directly with families to make the phone calls to, how sometimes I know that I've worked with families where sometimes you have to be persistent and really call, and really get, make that connection so that you can get the appointment, because you might call, someone doesn't call back, or families might email and they don't get a response back. Well, this particular program really steps in and provides that support and ensures that if a family is looking for counseling or some sort of mental health support, that there's follow through and that there's successful connection to getting the mental health care that they need. And so knowing that there's immediate need, I just wanted to share that this is something that we wanted to learn more about. And so they'll likely be presenting to our board here very soon, just so that we can learn more about it. Again, we want to learn how we can support our students since this is such a need. So are there any comments about this or anything that I've shared in regards to this particular resource? No?
I just have a quick comment. I mean, it kind of goes off of the social emotional. As we've returned to in person, it's just amazing the stories and what our students are going through. PBIS rewards, I know it's a little bit more expensive online, but Castro did purchase it for this year, and then mid-year we added kind of the referral part. But one aspect that they've added is a social emotional check. And some of our students have used it this week. And like, for instance, one student got so upset with their mom this week, they left home without their phone, walked 30 minutes to school. And when she got to school, she checked in on it. So I got the angry alert, was able to go check in, call the parent. So I'm just wondering how we can help support schools to really let them know about PBIS rewards online and really push it, because I mean, there's just so many amazing things. On the positive side, it goes with the flow chart and all that good stuff, but just so many things we've been able to support our students and parents with just that one little check-in within the app.
Thank you, Katie. We definitely need to look into that too. I didn't even know that existed. That's great.
Yeah, and I was able to call the parent, and she's like, "Thank you for letting me know she arrived," but without that little thing, I never would have known. So
Yeah, that's great. Are any other comments or the things that we should look into, knowing the immediate need, and we just want to make sure that we're seeing what's available to support our scholars?
I am now very excited to hear what Brad thinks about everything so far.
And that would be awesome since we're down to 2 minutes left.
Okay, so in 2 minutes, I will tell you it's incredibly inspiring, and I'm taking feverish notes and learning a lot also, because there are so many different approaches to some of these issues. So I'm excited. I've already, depending on your needs and the directions we want to go, I think that there are resources that I can bring to bear. But some of the larger questions that I hear you talking about, this intersection between SEL and safety, I think that's really at the core of some of the training materials I've already developed. So, like I said, just excited and inspired.
Thank you. We're so excited that we're going to get to work with you as well.
I agree. So thank you. All right, everybody. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time, for all your support. Please make sure that your name is captured there as an attendee if it's not. And like I said, we're just so grateful. We've accomplished a lot as a committee so far. We look forward to continuing to utilize your expertise and your passion in this area as an advisory. And if no one has any other further comments, then
I just wanted to say that, Brad, I'm glad you were able to listen in, and then I'll call you or email you in the next few days so we can set up a meeting so you can kind of talk me through what training needs you heard that we may need today.
Perfect. That would be a wonderful next step. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also just like to say that I am so grateful for Dr. Maya Sessi. She's just, has done so much. And I can't even tell you, I'm so grateful for where we are today, Sessi, because of your leadership and not giving up the committee just because you had to work on building and operations. That you understand that in order to get where we need to be, we have to have a very positive learning environment. And that's so much part of it. So thank you so much again.
No problem. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you all. It's been nice getting to know you all, and I'm excited to see the work continue through the leadership of Raul and Rebecca. So thank you all, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.